in the process. Okay.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Margaret Master. I'm assigned to be the mediator for the situation today. Why don't I just quickly get your names and I'll start over here.
My name's Andy. Howard.
Great. And your name?
Brad, again, G-I-N.
Mediation is an opportunity to be a little bit more informal than the court, so feel comfortable to call me Margaret. And are each of you comfortable using first names today?
Brad's fine.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, great. I want to talk a little bit about what you can expect from this meeting. Mediation, is a process that not everyone is familiar with, and it does vary. My job is not going to be to solve the problem. So my job is going to be to listen to each of you, to ask you about the situation, and then to help the two of you discuss the situation. I'm going to try and help the two of you work toward a solution to whatever brought you here today. So in doing that, my job is to be neutral and impartial. So I want to ask if either of you have ever met me before or worked with me before. Andy?
No.
Brad?
No.
That may seem like slightly a silly question because I know I've never worked with either of you before, but I just want to ask that to make clear for both of you that I don't know you, and I feel that that's going to allow me to be very neutral, very impartial in this situation. It also means that I don't know anything about this situation, so I'm going to need to find out some things before we can begin talking about it. So let me tell you a little bit about the process. I need to find out about what has gone on, so I'm going to start with one of you just telling me what your perspective is, what concerns brought you here today, and what you're looking to see happen. Which one of you originally initiated this matter in the court?
Well, I did. I filed, he owes me $400 for damaging my car.
Okay, so then because...
I'm the victim here. He did this.
Okay, because I need to start at some point to begin getting an understanding about the situation. When I finish with this introduction, Brad, I'm going to look to you to tell me what your concerns are and what you're looking to see happen with this situation.
Okay.
And during that time, Andy, I'm going to ask you to hold on, and then when Brad is done, I'm going to look to you to tell me what your situation is, how you see it, what your concerns are, and what you'd like to see happen. And during that time, Brad, I'm going to ask you to hold on. That'll just give me a chance to have that uninterrupted time to really get a sense of what is going on from each of your perspectives. Questions about that?
No.
Okay. After I hear from each of you, then we're going to get a chance to all talk together and open up for discussion. There may be things that you each want to ask each other and talk to each other about. So we will have a chance for some open discussion. There's also going to be a time where I may want to meet with you each individually. And when I meet with one individually, then I'll meet with the other individually. So that's how this meeting is going to work. Mediation is really, I know it may seem at this point as you're sitting here, you've come to the table to try and reach an agreement, which I do really respect, that you've left the court process to try and come to an agreement. And it may seem a little daunting of a task at this point, but I want to let you know that a lot of people do find it very valuable and are able to come to an agreement. And it is my hope that we'll be able to work toward that today. If we are able to reach an agreement, I'm going to be involved in helping write it up, and we'll make sure everything's real clear before we leave here today. So that would be a process we do at the end of the mediation. Questions about how this is going to happen?
No, I'm just ready to get on it.
Okay. Well, good. I want to get started as well, but there's just a few last things that I need to cover. You need to know that this mediation is confidential as far as I'm concerned. That means I'm not willingly going to be involved in any court process or take anything outside of this room or outside of the center. I'm going to take notes, but those are going to be torn up at the end of the meeting. So the only thing that's really going to leave the room is the agreement that we would draft up. So you should feel confident discussing things here today knowing that I'm going to keep this confidential. There is an exception to that, however. If I find out that someone in this room or outside of this room is in serious imminent danger, then I would have to break the confidentiality and talk with the appropriate agency about that. Any questions about the confidentiality?
No, that's fine.
Okay. And another important piece is that this mediation is voluntary. I know the judge may have recommended that you come here or told you to come here, and I'm glad that you come here, but you are not required to continue beyond a point where you feel comfortable being in here. And most importantly, you are not required to sign any agreement. So any agreement you reach is voluntary, and that's important to make clear. Last but not least, let me just lay out a few guidelines to help me run this meeting better. It's real helpful if one person talks at a time. I am comfortable being here as long as necessary to resolve the situation, so we don't need to rush and talk over each other. Is that something that you each feel that you can do?
I don't have a problem with it.
Sure, I can do that.
Great, that'll help us move right along. And I think that we seem to have a good decorum going right now, and keeping things at a respectful terms while we're in the room as we address each other is going to be helpful as we try to deal with whatever brought you here today. So is that something that both of you can agree to while we're in this room? Andy?
Yes.
Great. Brad?
Fine.
Okay. Again, I'll just ask any more questions before we get started. I know I just threw a lot of information out there.
No, it seems pretty simple. Just
Okay.
get started.
Good, so do I, and I just wanted to make sure that we got all that out there. Then what I'm going to do now again is, Brad, I'm going to ask you to tell me what brought you here, and during this time, Andy, I'm going to ask you to hold on, and then I'll turn to you, okay?
Yeah, what basically happened is this person over here banged with a huge stick. It was actually a huge branch and bashed my car. Twig, right. It was this huge branch that he banged. It was at the end of a party that we were both at. And he kept trying to talk to me about stuff that was just not appropriate to discuss at this party. He wouldn't take no for an answer. It was near the end of the party, so I walked out. I decided to leave. He follows me out to my car. Still tries, he's yelling and screaming. And I said, look, I'm not going to talk about this now. You want to talk about it, we'll do it another time. And then, so I hop in my car, and the next thing I know, as I drive off, I hear this huge bang on the back of my car. And he had banged it with this branch, and it damaged my car. I called him the next,
Okay, hold on just
Wait a
a
minute,
second. Hold on just a second. Andy, I know you have a different perspective on the story, and that's very important for me to make sure I'm clear on. So why don't you hold on so that I can make sure that I get your perspective accurately, because I'm not going to be able to hear both of you at the same time, okay?
You know, the next day, there wouldn't even be a problem. I did call him the next day. I told him, actually it might have been a couple days later, I went to get an estimate for the damage the next day. And it was $400, and he said, fine, you know, he'll cover it. He knew he did it. And he said, send me the estimate. So I did. I sent him the estimate for $400. I never heard back from him. So I called him again, and now he tells me he won't pay the bill. So I had no other recourse. I mean, you know, $400 is $400, but I mean, he damaged it. He should pay for it.
Could you back up a little bit for me and just give me a little context? How do you know each other? What context was this situation in?
This was a party given by one of our colleagues. We worked together at the university, and you know, there's a whole group of us a lot of times that get together. This was a larger party than a lot of them, but we get together a lot. You know, after work. This was at someone else's house.
I just want to go through to make sure I understand what you're telling me. One of the main issues that brought you here is some damage to your car.
Right.
Which happened when you and Andy were at a party with some colleagues. There was a discussion that you didn't think was appropriate to have at that point.
Right.
And is that the reason you left the party, or at some point later you
Well,
left
it was
the party?
late. I was getting ready to leave anyway, but I may not have left right at that moment, except for this, you know, how he's been. And he's been like this for a while now.
So there was this discussion you didn't want to have that prompted you to decide to leave the party then.
Right.
You left the party, and it sounds like there was an argument of some sort.
The argument was basically that I didn't want to talk to him, and he was trying to talk to me, and it just wasn't the right time. I mean, you know, it was the end of a party. We'd both been drinking. He was drinking a lot, and, you know, I just thought he was out of hand.
So, you know, it was a festive occasion. There had been some drinking going on, and you think that contributed perhaps to the...
I don't know.
Okay. Well, anyway, as you were driving away, it's your feeling that Andy threw something at the car.
Well, a huge branch.
Okay, and the car was damaged. Was that, which part of the car was that?
Caught my right rear. And kind of a corner there.
Okay, the next day you checked it out, got some estimates, looked like it was going to be $400 to repair the damage. Talked to Andy about that, didn't seem like it was going to be a problem. And then later...
About a week later.
Okay, the payment that you expected didn't happen.
Right.
And you felt at that point that you wanted to, is that the point you wanted to go to court?
When he talked to me, you know, that was really my only recourse, so I took him to small claims court.
Okay, and you and Andy worked together at the university in the department?
Right.
Do you think I've got a good perspective on what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
if he pays me the $400, we go home.
Okay,
Let's take
so
care.
what you're really looking for is the $400.
Right.
Is there anything else that you think this meeting needs to accomplish today?
No, I just want my money and then done.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brad. I'm going to ask you to hold on, and sometimes when you have a chance to sit for a while, you think of new things that you wanted to add to make sure I know, and we will have a time to talk together later. So I'm going to ask you to hold on. And now, Andy, thank you for waiting. I'm going to ask you to tell me what your sense of the situation is and what your concerns are.
Well, some of what Brad said was true.
All of what I said was true.
No, some of it was true, Brad.
Andy?
Okay.
You know as well as I know that that was not, what did you call it, a huge stick.
Andy,
It was
why
a
don't you
twig.
tell me your perspective at this point? You will have a chance to talk together later.
Brad and I were at a party, given, as he said, by one of our colleagues at the university. Brad had been drinking.
Andy had been drinking.
Well, not as much as you.
Wrong.
I had tried to talk to him about some things, and he became very argumentative and abusive and unreasonable, and I, kept trying to talk to him, and he decided he would just leave, and I was very angry about this, that he would not talk to me, and I followed him out to his car. He just got in the car and was going to take off. He just, told me to buzz off. Got in the car and was going to take off, and it's true, I did throw a little twig at his car. I don't even think it could possibly have done any damage. He certainly could not have heard it, or it didn't make any big dent in his car or anything like that.
I don't care what you want to call it. $400, Andy.
Hold
You
on
damaged
just a
my
second.
car.
Hold on just a second.
Pay it, and we're out of this place, okay? I'm only here
Well,
because
you're
the
not
judge sent
Andy,
me here.
Brad, can you hold on a second? Brad, I know it's really hard to wait and listen when you have a different perspective on it, and that's going to be really important for us to make sure we bring it all out, what you feel about what Andy's saying, what Andy feels about your saying. So I know that's hard. You've got a pen and paper there, and just make some notes about what you really want to make sure you say, because I don't want to miss it, okay?
Well, anyway,
So talk to me at this
I
point.
threw the twig at the car. I'm admitting that it was a little tiny twig. It's just something that was laying on the ground, and just out of sheer frustration and anger at Brad. It's just being an unbelievable asshole. And I threw it at his car. He called me the next. I didn't even think anything about it because it wasn't doing any damage whatsoever. He called me the next day and said that it damaged his car. I said, well, fine. I'm thinking to myself, I don't believe this, but fine, you get an estimate and you show me that it damaged your car, and if I did something to your car, then I'll pay it. Well, he did send me an estimate for $400. In the meantime, a mutual friend of ours told me something that I wasn't aware of, that Brad's car was already damaged. And so what he's wanting me to do is to pay to have somebody else, or what he himself, I don't know, had already done to the car.
Who told you about this other damage?
That's neither here nor there.
Okay, Andy, keep continuing on with.
Are you denying it?
Margaret asked me to wait, I'll wait.
See, now all of a sudden he gets quiet. The car was already damaged. He's trying to make me pay for something that was already there. I'm not going to do it. I don't mind taking care of something that I do, but I'm not going to take care of a problem he already He's already screwed me once, he's trying to screw me.
Let me make sure I have the situation as you see it. That at this party you really wanted to talk to him about something.
Yes.
And you felt that when you tried to talk to him about it, you didn't like his reaction. You were frustrated that he didn't want to talk about it, and
Yeah,
you
I'm just
felt that he was
yeah.
avoiding the issue.
And by the way he was treating me, he was just blowing me off. He had no right to do that.
So that sort of discussion went outside to where Brad's car was, and as Brad was pulling away, your frustration over the fact that it wasn't the way he was treating you, you picked up what you called a twig. You picked something up and threw it at the car.
That's right.
You were surprised that any damage could have occurred,
I still don't believe any damage could have occurred.
and asked for him to send an estimate, and you felt that the estimate was beyond what you felt was reasonable.
I think the estimate was broad. I mean, he knew it already had damage, and he was trying to make me pay for it.
Part of that was some concern over something that you'd heard from a mutual friend
A
about some
reliable mutual friend.
previous damage,
That's right.
and you have concerns over paying for something you don't feel.
Well, wouldn't you do, I mean, if you had damaged somebody's car, wouldn't you?
Well, I'm hearing that that's a
Somebody
real
else
critical
damaged
issue
it,
for
you
you.
refuse to pay for it.
What I would do isn't necessarily important here, but I'm hearing from you that was critical for you.
Yeah.
What
Not
is
my
it?
damage.
What is it that made you so angry, that you were so frustrated that you said you felt that he was avoiding the issue? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I just was angry. I wanted to talk to him. I was very angry that he was blowing me off and basically telling me, basically just refusing to talk to me.
And have you had a chance to talk about, is that issue resolved?
No. I've not, outside of this bogus claim that he's made about damage to his car, I haven't talked to him at all since that night.
What is it that you want to accomplish here today? What is it that you need to feel that this situation is resolved?
Oh, just drop this case and I'm out of here. Besides, the judge will see that this is plainly a fraud. I'm not worried about that.
Okay, is there anything else that you think would need to be resolved beyond the suit?
No. I think that Brad has made his intentions clear. I think that he's said that he doesn't care what he does to me, so I don't think there's anything else to discuss further.
Okay. Do you think that I've gotten your perspective on the situation?
If you understand that I didn't damage his car and that I want to be released from this suit, then you've gotten my perspective.
Okay, I think that that's what I have written down here, so I just want to make sure that there wasn't anything else that you wanted to add, or that you feel my summary was inaccurate in any way. Okay. I've heard from each of you, and I want to make a quick list of what we need to talk about to resolve the situation, and to make this meeting most productive. Each of you have talked about wanting to deal with the damage issue of the car, what to do about the damage, how you each feel about what might have been damaged or what might not have been damaged. So that's one thing that we need to talk about. The repairs to the car and the issue of money. There's also a court case pending, as far as I understand.
Right.
So how you want to deal with that court matter. I also want to open up for discussion. Each of you have both mentioned that you work together, and I think I have a sense that whatever caused this initial this discussion at this party not to go well is still not resolved. And I just want to say that mediation is a chance for us to discuss not just court matters, but whatever you think needs to be resolved. So that may also be something that we want to begin to talk about. Are there other things that you need on this list of what needs to be done? Both of you were very clear that taking care of the car matter was critical to both of you.
Right?
Okay. Well,
That's what we're here for.
all right. Great. This is a chance for us to open up the floor for general discussion now, and I've asked you sort of each to hold on while I talk to the other person, and now we can all talk together. Why don't we begin talking about that damage that you're so concerned about, and that you each have a pretty different perception about what might have happened at that evening. Is there things you want to say to each other about
there is.
that?
Let me clear up any problem you have. I don't know who told you about the damage, but the estimate that I'm giving you has nothing to do with any prior damage to the car.
Just answer me a question. Was the car damaged before this?
Not in that same location, Andy.
How close?
Not even close.
2 inches?
Not even close. Not even close, and
Where
that's
was it?
not what was repaired, so.
That's, well, what I understand is that the damage was in the same area, and you're trying to get...
Well, and I'm telling you it wasn't, okay?
I don't believe it.
Oh, fine. Who told you?
I'm not gonna talk about
Yeah,
it. There's no
you're
need to
not gonna
drag
talk
me
about
into
it.
You're admitting that it was already damaged, Brad. What
What's
else
the
do you need to
difference
know?
what's the difference if my whole front end was smashed in when what I'm talking about is just the rear of my car, the side rear?
You're trying to, you know good and well that there was no $400 worth of damage done by that little twig. If there was
Andy,
any damage,
I mean, this is typical of him and how.
Why didn't you stop right there?
You need to grow up.
Why didn't you
Okay,
stop
need
right
to
there?
grow up.
If you-
Otherwise, you're not going to be long in this.
If you
car.
really thought there was any damage to your car, why didn't you just stop right there? You didn't think there was any more than I thought there was
You
any.
mean
Like, I
stop
wanted
in front
to-
of the party?
I wanted to, no.
Let's talk about the estimate a little bit. You felt skeptical about this damage once you talked to some other people. What was on the estimate that, are you each agreeing to the site of the damage?
The estimate said precisely that it was just by the tail light on the rear side of the car, and that's what the $400 was for. It wasn't for any other area of the car. The area that was prior damaged, whoever told you that, was not the same area. They're mistaken.
So you're
What
not
friend of yours
disputing.
did this estimate?
Andy, you saw it was from a reputable car dealer. You had the estimate. Don't give me,
Well, let's just clarify that, because this issue of hearing about prior damage was important to you, Andy, and you're not disputing, Brett, that there was prior damage, but you're saying that that damage wasn't related to what you had repaired.
Right.
And is that new information for you, Andy, or was the person you were talking to also referring to something else besides this front end damage?
No, they were referring to the area that the estimate talks about, the right rear quarter. They said it was already damaged.
Oh, fine.
You're saying it wasn't.
That's not even what I mean, like I said, you're not going to be in this department very long to keep all this up, okay?
See,
That's just, it's
this
just
is-
typical of you.
This is typical of you.
No.
This is typical of you, to throw your weight around. Yeah. This is typical of you. You want
Andy,
me to
you need
just...
to grow up.
You want me to do
Okay?
just what I've always done and just kind of buckle under
No, what
here
you
and
need to
just
do is
pay you
take
$400.
responsibility for what is relevant, for what you should take responsibility
you.
for.
You're the
and
one
not
who needs to
take
take
credit for things
responsibility.
that aren't part of
And
yours.
you are the one who needs to not take credit for things you didn't do.
What kind of working relationship have you had in the past, or what kind of working relationship do you have now?
A strained one.
Are there times where you do have to
I
interact?
took this person under my wings. Half the knowledge that he has, more than half the knowledge he has in our department is based for me. So, for him to be talking about this, the reason is he's trying to take advantage of all my goodwill and help by everything that's been taking place in the last month or so.
And of course, you wouldn't take advantage of me, would you?
Of course not. Why would I? I mean, all I've done is help you all
You have
along.
taken advantage of me, Brad.
Let's say that you are able to deal with this issue around the damage. What do you see as a future working relationship?
There is no future working relationship. He's trying to take credit for an article that's being published that both of us
That I wrote.
worked on.
I researched.
And fine, Andy, you wouldn't have had this article except for my name, and who edited all your rough draft that needed a whole hell of a lot of editing?
You did some minor editing, and now you want credit for it.
You wouldn't exist except
You want
for
credit
me.
for something? Do the work.
Right, Andy, that's fine.
Was this the topic that you were discussing at this this evening when
He
the
wanted to
selectmen did
discuss it, it was
Topic
not
I
the
was trying
appropriate
to
time,
discuss.
in front of all of our colleagues and
Yeah.
friends, it was embarrassing.
It never is the appropriate time, and this is the extent of what he calls a discussion anyway.
What's that?
Just to accuse me of trying to take advantage of him.
So this, how long ago was this incident around this paper?
It's been going on.
It's still going on.
But we were working on a paper, conflict resolution in the workplace, and it's due to be published, and we're getting pressure from the publisher in the last month, and he wants, it was always an understanding that my name was gonna be first, and then his name. Okay, now he wants to take credit, he says he did all the work.
That's not true. There was not an understanding that his name was gonna be first and my name was gonna be second. My understanding always was that if I wrote the damned article, then I'd get credit for it, which I
How
did.
could that be? Would you have an article without me?
Would you have
I'm
an
the
article if
tenured
I had done the
professor,
research
Andy.
and written it?
Yes, I would have, Andy, I was doing you a favor by giving you a shot
Oh,
at this.
I see. You would have had this article all nice and ready to go in under your name.
Sure.
So what's the
I could have written it, I let you write it,
Oh, you could have, but you didn't.
Andy.
I wrote it.
And if you had submitted it to the editor as is, you would have been very embarrassed.
What's the status of the situation now? Is it published? Is it?
No, he's called the publisher is holding off on it, it's embarrassing to me. They want this resolved immediately, and I don't know what's taking place with it.
I notified the publisher that I wrote the article.
So they're threatening not to publish it at all.
So in regards to this matter,
He
it's,
should simply tell them that I wrote it, and then they'll publish it.
okay, so you both have different perceptions of how the protocol for these sorts of articles should go. And do you believe
There is
that
a
if
protocol.
you do the majority of the writing, that it should be your name?
Sure, it's my work. I
is it-
researched it, I wrote it.
And
He did edit it, that's true.
And
He
Brad,
did edit
it sounds like because
That was-
you feel that this research comes out of your auspices, your,
It's traditional, I mean, I've done this with other younger professors who are trying to make a name for themselves and get going, to take them under my wings, help them, guide them with what they're working on. Without my help, they would not have had a chance to get published with this article and edit it and take care of it.
You yourself
There's no
talked
doubt it's my
about
name
what a
that should be
wonderful
going
piece
on.
of work it was.
is
It's
it?
a nice, right, with my help in editing, it was a finished product.
Is
And
it
the
a-
research, everything was very good. You did, I'm not objecting to that.
So you feel positive about the article in its current form?
Yes,
With,
it should be published.
and how do you feel about the article now?
I feel it's a fine article and it should be published. And it's waiting for Brad to
What
do that.
what does getting it published mean for you?
A lot.
Tell me more.
Well, I'm looking for academic jobs. You have to have decent publications in order to be considered. So it's important.
Okay.
I have others, but this was a really important piece.
Okay. And it sounds like something you feel pretty proud of?
Yes, absolutely.
And getting that out there in the community is going to be critical for your career.
Yes.
Brad, what does getting this article published mean for you?
It means getting another article published. I haven't published one for a while. There's pressure, there's talk about, change. I'm a tenured professor, but there's talk about changing that, and there's like new pressure to get things published. And see, this whole thing is over whose name is first, because that's the critical name that everyone recognizes.
That's what it would be cataloged.
And there's no doubt,
So it's not that it's a single name?
no, both of our names would go on it, but it's who's the top name.
The second person on the article just kind of goes off into oblivion, the way this works.
Okay.
No, and it's not how it works. By getting your name published in the first place, we'll start giving you credibility so that you might have an opportunity to publish something on your own. That's the whole point of this. You failed to realize that. He's impatient, he's immature, and he shouldn't even be here, so that's fine.
Well, when I went to your department, Brad, I was forewarned that you had a habit of making other people do your research. Turned out to be true.
What I want to say that I've heard is that for both of you, getting some resolution to this issue over the paper is going to make a difference in your career and your status in the department and your status academically.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. So you both have started to talk about this paper. Is discussing how to manage that, how to take care of that, something that you do want to do today, to work on?
Yeah, I mean, if he'll agree to that, that'd be, why might you be more flexible on the other to get that resolved? That's much more important to me. I mean, if he'll
Okay,
agree
so I mean, I
to
just wanted to check.
the way it's supposed to be with my name
I think
first.
that's how this whole thing got started.
Okay. Okay,
I
well,
don't think there's anything to the car claim at all.
Andy, that's bullshit.
well, let's sort of table how to resolve that paper issue for a minute. I want to ask, it seems like you've had some working relationship history, and I want to ask sort of how things were going between you two as coworkers before this issue of the paper came up.
Well, Brad, told me when I went there that he liked what he had seen of what I had done, and that he could be helpful to me. Fine.
Fine, I mean, extremely helpful. And as far as I know, I mean, some stuff is coming out now, but as far as I know, we had a very fine working relationship. And for him to have any expectations that his name was going to be the first name, I just can't believe it. I mean, the custom and protocol, I mean, that's not how it works. This is a break for him just to get this published, period.
You can't just take somebody else's work and stick your name on it. There's no such protocol. That's ridiculous.
And it's my work, it's my connections, it's my supervision, my knowledge that you have.
Well, it's my research.
Okay, Andy,
You're not
how did
doing
you
that.
feel about working with Brad up to the point that this paper issue became critical?
Well, under my understanding that he was going to help me get the article published, I felt fine.
So you were operating under that understanding, and you felt good about the way things were going?
Sure, I thought that was a great thing to have a senior person help me get an article published. Fine. Who wouldn't jump at the chance to have that done?
Exactly, and you have that opportunity still.
No,
For
you're
me to help
helping
you get your article
get an
published.
article published, Brad.
And your name will be on it.
That's not what you said. It's not what you meant, I don't think.
That is what I meant. I wouldn't have done any other thing.
I would not have consented if I thought that's what you meant.
If you don't even have the right to be even talking about something else. If you had really done this 100%, that might be a different thing, okay? But the fact is that I gave you guidance and supervision on how to do the research. I edit
And
the hell out of that document
And at
to
no
make it
point
work.
did you say you're researching an article for me, which is now what you're telling me, that I researched an article for you.
No, I'm not disputing that. I know you did the research, Andy, but with my direction and guidance so that it would be valid research, okay? And I edited the whole thing.
Let-
You see,
And it's my name, and when you get
Okay.
another...
Well, I mean, I think, do you feel clear about what Brad's perspective is on this? I mean, I know you don't necessarily agree with
Yeah,
it,
his-
but you feel clear about what his reasoning is?
His perspective is that I don't really even exist.
Okay.
That's his perspective.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying it's a big step for your career to have your name on an article, period. And then if you're patient enough, like everybody else has, like I was when I was younger, you'll get the next one published in your name first.
Andy, I mean, Brad, do you feel you understand Andy's perspective even though you don't agree with it?
Sure, he's eager, he wants to, I understand where he's coming from, but he doesn't deserve it.
So each of you have a different understanding of how the protocol should work, what rules are there for setting up whose name goes first and when, and how this contract was in terms of your working relationship. So you've identified that one way that Andy would like it is to have his name first, and does that also mean Brad's name second? Or not at all?
If he wants it second, that's fine.
Not at all.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just wasn't clear on.
Now, this is the position you want to put me in. How do you like it?
I'm
Well,
not
let me
saying to
just-
put your name not on it, your name goes on it, Andy, like every other document. There's article after article, it has, whether it's one name or 10 names on it, someone has to be first.
And
This
I'm
is-
saying
let
we
me
want your
hold
name
on.
on it, fine.
Okay.
So you're gonna kill the whole article based on
You're saying that that article won't be published
if my
your
name
name isn't first.
That's what you're saying.
No, I'm saying I think it'll be published as long as you call them up and tell them that I wrote the article.
You're
Okay,
willing.
Andy, Brad. Unfortunately, I do not have a lot of expertise on how these things go, so you're gonna have to bear with me as I get, a little bit more familiarity. Andy, what is your idea about how authorship is identified on the paper?
Whoever work it is, it's
For this
theirs.
paper, tell me what you want at the top or bottom or wherever it goes.
I wrote this article.
So what do you want?
I want to be acknowledged as the author of the article. He did make contributions to that, and for that, I'm willing to allow his name to go on it as well.
Okay. And Brad, what is it that you're looking for to identify authorship? Let's just help me out here because there's a lot of information going on. I want to make sure that I'm clear. Well, how do you want authorship on this article?
Bradley R. Ginn and Andy Miller.
Okay. So we have a couple different options. We're talking about first authorship, second authorship, and also single authorship, and how that gets taken care of.
Are you suggesting single authorship? I mean, that's what it sounds like. I mean, that is a lot of
I'm
nerve.
suggesting that you can have your name on there as a contributor, which is what you deserve to have it on there as.
So what it boils down to
You didn't
is,
spend all these hours and hours and hours on this article that I did.
what it boils down to is only one name to be first,
Okay.
and he's being a baby about it.
All right. Let me switch to the car issue for a little bit. Brad, I heard you mention before that the issue of resolving the paper is most critical to you.
That means more to me than, you know, the car. The car I'm pretty angry about because I think the reason he did this was because of all this as well, and out of principle he should pay for it. But what's more important to me is that the article gets published, and at the moment by him calling the publisher and holding this whole thing up, it's being killed.
So you feel that Andy should pay for what he did.
Yes.
Okay. And Andy, you feel that you shouldn't pay for anything you didn't do.
Yeah, no, I should pay for what I did. I
So-
disagree with that.
I think that
Well, then
both of you
write me a check.
I didn't do it, Brad.
both of you
You
seem
just
to
said,
have.
you said you did it.
I didn't do
You
it.
said you picked up something, okay?
I did, and,
Fine.
and I didn't damage your
How do you
car.
know? How do you know
Because
you
it was
didn't damage?
already damaged.
So the critical issue becomes defining
And I'm not
what
selling you that
happens.
article for $400. Forget it.
Let's for
It's
now
not even
try and
worth me.
separate them out. So the critical point becomes deciding how we determine what was done and what wasn't done, and there were some issues of previous damage. Why don't I take a chance to meet with each of you individually right now? And I just want to say that both of you, have stuck out. We've been in here, about 40 minutes and working hard on some situations that seem to have been, percolating for a little while. So thank you for putting in the energy to discussing this situation. I definitely have a much better understanding of things, and hopefully we've been able to at least clear up some perspectives. What I want to do is meet with each of you individually. I'm going to meet with Brad first, and then I'm going to meet with you, Andy. So Andy, let me show you where you can wait. And Andy, while you're having a chance to wait in the waiting room, if there's anything that you can think of that will help move us forward, make sure to bring that back. Okay? Brad.
Margaret.
Okay.
He's got some nerve.
Yeah. This private meeting is a chance for us to talk, one-on-one. And I don't think I mentioned at the beginning, which is important for me to make clear to you, that if there's anything you want to share in this private session between you and I that you don't want me to bring back to the table or discuss with Andy, that you'd like me to keep confidential from Andy, go ahead and let me know. So this can be a confidential meeting as well.
Okay. So I can tell you really what his work is like?
Yeah, tell me what you think is important for me to know of the situation. You seem pretty frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, there was never any understanding of that his name would go on first. Never. He's a junior professor. He's trying to get up there, and he's got all this ambition without doing the work. Okay, he's anxious to get going before putting in his time, like everybody else has. He's got a long way to go to be able to do this. Without my direction, we would never have done the proper research. It would have been invalid. And I had to edit the hell out of it in order to make it valid. I normally wouldn't care about, this. I've published before, but there's some pressure on me right now, and so I need to have this one in my name first, and that's what counts. And so, if it was another situation,
you know, that you're invested, you feel like you invested a lot of time and energy into this paper, and that's why it's able to be where it is right
Well,
now.
a lot of time and energy in Andy.
And in
Okay,
Andy.
I mean, this
So
wasn't the
you
first
took a
time. I
mentor
mean,
relationship with
exactly,
him.
exactly. And now he's trying to take advantage of that situation.
Sounds
I'm
like
not
a-
disagreeing in terms of the amount of work he did. I mean, time-wise, sure, he put in a lot more work. But was the understanding, and that's how it works.
How does it feel for you to have wanted to take Andy under your wing and feel like you're in the situation that you are in now?
And having to be a pompous asshole, it feels lousy. I mean, and he starts referring to situations where I have this reputation, and that's bogus. I've never had any problem with anybody else ever before. And there's other people who are now tenured that I have helped, and they have their own articles. And there's other people where my name is second or third. I
So
don't have a problem with
this
that, but-
mentor relationship has been something that you've been in before. Am I getting?
Yes.
Okay, and
Yes.
that's worked well before.
On both sides.
On both sides.
Right. I mean, I had a professor that took me under his wings, and I would never have done this, ever.
You talked
And
about
I
the
wouldn't be
proto-
where I was except for that person.
So that relationship's important and some of the guidelines around that. Because you talked about protocol and
Right.
this is just not done and this is the way things get done.
Right.
Has this issue ever come up for you with other junior
No.
people?
No, I mean, no, what usually happens is there's a fight between the not junior people, but,
The call.
right,
the
if I was
solo
writing,
calls.
right.
Okay.
And it's always an
So
issue.
this is something that's often sensitive then? It's because
Yeah.
you're telling me how critical it is for you and your career, and Andy's talked about how critical it is for his career, so it sounds like these papers, and, you know, forgive my kind of slow to understand this culture here, but it
Right.
sounds like
You have
this
to
is pretty
publish.
important for both of you right now. Is time a factor? You talked about how there's a little pressure on. Is time a factor?
Yeah, I mean, and I think he's being impatient, and from my perspective, I need an article published very quickly.
Why? Tell me how you think Andy might have not understood the protocol.
I don't know how he would, I mean, it's not anything that's written, it's just the way things work. And,
How long has he been with working with you?
he's been with me for, gosh, almost 2 years. And he's been, at the university for 3 years. And I mean,
Do you know, has he written any papers with anyone else before where this issue might have come up?
I don't know. He's has other things published where he's never been the top name.
Primary.
Right.
So you're not clear on how he might have misunderstood this protocol.
Right. I mean, I know. I know he's ambitious. He's got an ego. I mean, all those things are good in order to make it in this, but he's trying to get ahead before it's his time.
And how do you feel about the work he did? I think I heard you say that you felt it was good
Yeah, I
work,
mean,
although
once-
you needed your contribution.
Right. With my supervision, the actual work he did was good, and he worked hard. There's no doubt about it.
And so you're going to feel good about having that paper out with your name.
Yeah. Right. I mean, if I thought it was shoddy, I wouldn't want it to be first name on it. Absolutely.
Let's talk then about ways to get you what you want, which is you need to get this paper out there in a fairly timely manner to demonstrate that you've published something and you feel good about the work. So that's going to be good for you. It sounds like to have this paper with your name on it.
Well, it would be very good with my first name, right? At this point in my career, being second name doesn't do anything.
Okay. So having your name second, does it mean it's just neutral, or are there other connotations with that?
I mean, it's another, it just doesn't, it's not what the university wants.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's not negative, I mean, it's positive, but it just, it doesn't get counted as a credit of would be my published art.
So what are some ideas, and we can just be as creative as possible, for how you could get that paper, you could talk to Andy about getting that paper out there and getting the recognition that you're looking for your career.
I mean, there is something I've thought about, and I haven't discussed it with him, and based on his attitude, this is just between you and me right now, because the way he is, and then this whole car situation, I wasn't even gonna talk to him about it. I mean,
There's been a breakdown in this relationship that's kind of
right, there's
fueled
another,
a stalemate to
yeah,
some extent.
there's another article that another research project we're gonna work on together and published. So, you know, I could promise him ahead of time that he could have the top name ahead of time for that.
What? Okay.
And we could have that direct understanding ahead of time.
Okay, so there's
But
another article.
I don't feel comfortable, he's obviously made it clear, I don't feel comfortable working with him anymore after the situation.
Let me just make sure I understand your idea, and then I want to talk about your comfort with his approach right now and how he's working with you. There's another article pending, and if you could have the top name on this article that's now with the journal or publisher,
Right.
you would feel comfortable giving him top name on the pending article. If you were able to resolve some other issues in terms of the way
If
he's
it's- if
responding
it's-
and your working relationship.
If he snaps back in line, yeah, I mean, obviously,
What's the timeline on that article?
it depends on how long the research takes, so, but, I mean, it could still be done within this, you know, within a year's time.
Okay.
I mean, the publisher's already been contacted and is interested.
Okay, let's talk about your concerns about this. Is it just your working relationship, or is it outside of work or in the department? You talk about his attitude. Tell me what's...
Well, I think you've seen it. I mean, just the whole idea that he's even doing this, and to
Doing-
call the publisher,
challenging the
Right.
protocol.
right. I mean, for him to do that, for him to, he really had a lot to drink, and for him to be that way in front of the colleagues, this looks bad for me in terms of, you know, I'm head of this department, and everyone's like laughing, I mean, and that I can't get this resolved. And so they want us to get this resolved. They don't want this to go on. It's just bad for the university, bad for the department, and I'm getting a lot of pressure to get this cleared up.
What would you need to hear from Andy to feel that this issue of the way you work together and the issues are, you would feel comfortable? What do you need to hear from him?
Look, if you know, probably not a lot. I mean, what we could decide on, I mean, if he would agree, now that I'm thinking about it, if he would agree to be top, give me top name for this one, he's top for the next one, which means I'm gonna let him do all the work, that's fine, he can do it, and then we can end our relationship.
And your-
Because I need to get this taken care of.
And your relationship, not work together again, not be in the same department?
Right, I mean, if it works out, fine, but, you know, I don't have a problem not liking him anymore. And, you know, I mean, if he wants to change and shape up, that's fine. But I mean, what I've seen here today is pretty indicative of someone I don't want to continue the relationship we've had.
What, do you want to talk about a different way of working together? I mean, it sounds like you've been frustrated by the way things have...
I'd be open to talking about it if he is, and if he's not, that's fine. So, I mean, I'll leave it up to him.
And what do you need, what would you expect him, if you would have a better relationship, what would you expect him to be, his approach?
You know, he could have sat down, we could have discussed this, and instead of really going behind my back and, I mean, he mentioned it to me, and then I thought it was a joke. You know, I couldn't even believe it. So I never knew he was serious. The next thing I said, right, Andy, you know, there's obviously not, but, you know, things go on, we'll see what happens. And the next thing I know, the publisher calls me up and says he called, and they didn't want to get in the middle of the dispute. They had no reason to, you know, from their standpoint, he says, you know, fix it, resolve it, otherwise there's no article.
Okay, so you would like a more open discussion.
Yeah, we could have talked about it, at least, I mean, in a rational way. Instead, I mean, for him to be damaging my car and trying to do this and embarrass me in front of all my colleagues.
Do you think, okay, let's talk about the car for a little bit.
Okay.
What's important to you about that $400? You mentioned at the beginning that $400 is $400. I mean, financially, is it critical to get the $400?
That's what I meant. I mean, I don't need the money. But, but it's the nerve of this guy to be doing what he's been doing. And it's principle. I mean, he caused damage. He should pay for it. And I think it's rooted in this whole problem we've been having. And that was not the proper place. I mean, it was loud and obnoxious to be talking about. And a very embarrassing situation.
You said that getting the money in terms of financially it's not important to you, but you think he needs to take responsibility for what he did.
Right. But I would, between you and me, perhaps just even let that all go if he will agree, and then I might consider this. I mean, if he would agree that I get top name on this first article, he can get top name on the second one, and I'll drop the suit. I don't care.
Okay.
You know, and then we can go about our separate ways. If something works out better, fine.
So the suit for you, as long as you can resolve the article issue, you don't need anything from him.
I mean, I would like it. I don't feel very good about it. It'd be nice if he would, agree to pay something.
What would something look like?
If he paid half, $200, at least then we could say it's, it's at least a meeting. He had some responsibility with it. For him to make this argument that there's no damage, I mean, there was some other damage. I'm not sure who he was talking to. It doesn't really matter to me because it was in a separate area. And so whoever that is was mistaken, or Andy's twisting it to try to get out of paying for this.
It sounds like that evening was fairly heated.
Well, at the end there, yeah, I said, Andy, now's not the place or time, in a very calm manner. His voice got louder and louder. I said, no, we got to talk about this now. Now is the time. And I said, no, we'll talk. Let's pick a time to talk next week, and we can do that. And he wouldn't take no for an answer. I'd been there a while. I said, I'm leaving. And he followed me all the way out to my car, shouting and screaming. I mean, basically the whole party stopped to see what was going on. And I just wanted to get out of there. So I hopped in the car and we threw the branch.
Okay, so pretty embarrassing situation for you that you wanted to.
I just wanted to get out of there, right,
Okay.
right. And I figured we can deal with it when he's sober and the whole situation in a more mature way.
You talked about a couple different ideas, and I want to ask you if you'll be able to bring those ideas back to the table when we all get together. You talked about the switching this article and the next article and how to deal with names then, and then also about how to deal with the money and the car damage.
Yeah, I mean, depending on where he's coming from, I mean, I didn't see any willingness before you started meeting with me to talk about these things. If these, I would bring these up if I get a sense that he's willing to talk about it.
And if let's say these ideas don't work, and Annie's ideas also don't work, and we aren't able to reach a resolution today. I mean, I think it's great that we're coming up with ideas, and hopefully we'll be able to move in that direction. What is going to happen if you walk away from this table without resolving either the article issue or the dollar issue?
Well, I'm sorry, without resolving the article and the, okay, the damage, I mean, with the car, that's simple. I mean, I'll get something for sure because I got the,
So you'll continue with the court matter?
well, absolutely. And I could bring in, I mean, there's a dozen witnesses, so, that shouldn't be a problem, and so.
What's going to be involved in continuing on in court?
Well, that's a pain. I guess we have to go back to the, courtroom, and have the judge decide.
And the witnesses would be who?
Colleagues that were at the party, I guess they're not going to want to do it. So, I mean, that's where I was saying I don't want to even pursue it because if they don't want anything to do with it. They're mad at me. I think they're mad at Andy for even having this go on, that I even sued him. So,
So it's something that it's going to take time, and it's going to cause further relationship problems, which is why you'd like to avoid it.
yes, right. with regard to the paper, really what's going to happen is, I mean, I have rank and I haven't done that yet. I was hoping to talk with Andy. It will get published under my name first. There's no doubt about it.
So ultimately,
and his career from that standpoint could be ruined.
ultimately,
I don't know if he realizes that.
ultimately, you think you could pull some strings or deal with
It's not
the
even pulling
issue, so.
strings. I mean, I'm known.
Wrong word, I'm sorry.
I'm known, and, you know, the publisher, you know, just said, resolve it, Brad. I've published with them before, and, I mean, people know that he's so ambitious and everything. So, I don't know if he realizes that.
I want to have a chance to talk with Andy individually and then bring us all back together. Are there things that we talked about? And ultimately, I just want to have a separate conversation with Andy and really just talk about it from his perspective and whatever things we want to bring back for you guys to bring back to the table together. But is there anything that you specifically want to let me know not to share with either Andy or to raise when we're back together?
I don't necessarily want you to mention how the pressure I'm under to be published and these suggestions about the other article. I mean, I'll bring that up if it's
I would think
appropriate.
that would be best from my perspective for you to bring it up.
Okay.
Okay. And, great, well then, I'm going to meet with Andy now. Why don't I show you where you can wait and I'll bring, why don't you hold on, let me get Andy and then I'll show you where you can wait. Okay,
Okay.
Brad? Yeah, thanks for waiting, Andy.
No problem.
Come on in, go ahead, take a seat. And Brad, let me show you where the waiting room is. And again, if anything else new occurs to you or you have other ideas,
I'm sitting here with my time.
Andy, thank you for waiting.
Oh, no problem.
You know what? Well, let me just clear up some things. I don't think I got it, I mentioned at the beginning, which is important for me to clear up, if there's anything you want to share with me in this private session that you don't want me to raise in the group session or with Brad, I can keep that confidential.
Okay.
So I want to let you know that this meeting is this meeting between us can be confidential, just as the whole meeting
Okay.
is confidential. I want to make sure that I understand why these two things are very important to you. It sounds like this article is really, you put a lot of energy into it,
Yeah,
hoping that it's going to make a big difference for you.
Sure, it's a good article, and I'm not going to give it to him. I mean, like I said, when I went there, various people warned me that he had a reputation of making other people do his research. And I see very clearly now that he does that. But he's not going to get away with it. Not with me.
And not getting away with it means what?
It means that I'm not going to sit back and let him tell them that article is his.
Let's just fill me in on a couple of things. Brad talked when we were all together somewhat about protocol and the way things happen, junior, senior. That's not something I'm real familiar with.
It's not something anybody's real familiar with.
Okay.
I mean,
So you feel this protocol that he referred to doesn't exist, and
well, I mean, there's certain aspects of it that are true, I guess. I mean, yes, it's very common for senior people to help junior people get published or to review articles for them, to make contributions to articles or edit articles, which he did. But there's no rule, as he's suggesting, that suddenly they get credit for the article. That's not helping them. That's taking their work.
how is it perceived in the?
If he wanted me to help him with an article, he could have said that, and I could have made a decision.
Tell me how it's perceived in the community that would be reading these journals when they see two names on the article. What does that mean for the
Well,
reader?
what it means is that the first name that appears on the article is basically the person who gets credit for it. That's the way.
What does credit mean?
If you went to the library to find that article, it's going to be cataloged under the first person's name.
So there isn't any kind of cross-referencing or anything like that?
In a real elaborate system, you might be able to find it cross-referenced under the sub-author, maybe.
And kind of
But nobody's going to look for
beyond
that.
those tangibles about how you look up the article, what does it mean? Because I'm trying to get a sense of why it's so, how getting this authorship is so important for you. I just want to make sure I understand.
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with how you look for jobs in the academic world, but one of the things you have to do is be published. And the more you're published, just a general heuristic, then the more marketable you are.
And being published means that the first name or the only name?
You need to be able to say that you have been the primary or sole author of some publications, yes.
Let's talk about other, have you had a similar relationship as you've had with Brad with any other professors?
No. Not to this extent.
And have you written papers with other folks?
Yes.
And how did you negotiate authorship at that point?
Well, I mean, on a couple of those, I didn't really do anything but some contributing research, and they were kind enough to acknowledge that by putting me on the article with them.
Was that something that was discussed in advance or left
No.
out to?
No, I mean, it was my understanding that I would either get only mentioned as contributing or sub-authorship, and that's what I got. That wasn't even explicitly talked about. I knew that given the level of work that I did, I was not going to be.
So it sounds like there aren't really explicit discussions about this. It's something that gets dealt with later based on some sort of implicit understanding.
Well, I think the understanding is that whoever does the work, it's their article. They deserve the credit for it.
What does it mean for you to have this article not being published at this point? I mean, it's sitting somewhere.
It's a piece of work that I've done that may just become untouchable.
Do people know about the controversy surrounding it?
Sure.
Tell me a little bit about how those perceptions have affected your work. And
Well, I think it's caused a lot of tension in the department. I think that other people in the department, both students and faculty, feel that it's an embarrassment to them, that we ought to be able to decide whose authorship it is without that having to become that discussion, that argument becoming public knowledge.
so right now it's sort of a public issue? in
Yes,
the
it's
department?
it's known. It is known. There is a dispute over how much credit is being taken for the article. And I mean, I agree. If Brad were to admit that he's trying to steal the article from me, it would be enormously embarrassing to him. Or that he tried to steal it from me. Of course,
It sounds like for both of you, there's a lot of career issues at stake here, that it's important, it's going to mean a pretty significant thing for both of you, depending on how it happens.
well, I think it's going to mean a lot of things. It's going to be important to my career. He says that it's really important to his career. I think that's probably true because I don't think he's been publishing that much lately. But he can.
Okay.
He doesn't need to take something from me.
So you think he has other work that he could
Yeah.
make a difference?
Quite capable. He can do his own work.
Given
And
that,
this also has implications in the department because I think a lot of people are sitting waiting to see if he's able to pull this off or not.
pull off this particular article.
Yeah, if he's able to
I'm pulling the
do
plug.
this.